Well, back in the 70s, when I got my MBA, that's right, most of you probably weren't even born then, but I got out of the Navy and I went back and got an MBA, all paid for by the government. But what they taught us back then was how to run General Motors. Man, and I just wanted to have my own business, and I graduated with that degree, and God, there's only one of those jobs to run General Motors. They didn't teach us anything about how to start your own business, or how to be a huckster, or make money on TV, or any of those kinds of things that I wound up doing. So actually, my first two businesses failed. Actually, back in '75 or whatever, I even had a software company. Because I was a computer software guy. My MBA was in management information systems, and I even started a software company that failed. And man, in retrospect, I must be the only person in the world in 1975 that had a software company that failed. But thank God, because that's how I unlearned all that stuff they taught me in business school. Man, then it took another business to fail. Before I got to what I really wanted to do in life. And I was wasting money starting businesses and hiring consultants and getting the legal forms and, whether I got an LLC or a CORP or whatever the heck it was. And, the Power furniture I remember spending all this money on, and the Power business cards and the board of directors and the accountants and lawyers and everything. Man, and when I went out of business, who won? The guys who I paid, right? The lawyers, the guy I bought the fancy furniture from, and the designers and all that. I was SOL. And that's why, what was really great about that was failing, because those two businesses failed, and I had to get out of my mind, that failing was, God, some kind of death wish or something, that if I failed, I'd be walking around the street with a big F on my forehead and everybody point, there goes Lesko, that failure. And after two failing businesses, I realized, man, nobody cares if I fail. We are all wrapped up in our own lives. Nobody cares about you. And that's what stopped me. And that's why I was doing all these things like other people taught me to do and I thought were right. And then after I got that failing out of my system, it didn't matter if you fail. See, the problem was I wasn't having fun. So I said, hey, my third business I start, I'm going to start having fun. Because the worst that could happen is that I fail again. But this time I'm having fun. So who cares if I fail? I'm having fun every day. And that's when things took off. Because when I started having fun, that's when I was unique and different. And thank God they don't teach that in school anymore. Here's an interview, a guy with a professor at San Diego State University. I think that's the university in San Diego State University. And he wrote a book here, Fail Fast and Win Big. Now his students are starting businesses while they're in school. That's right, paying for their student debts or whatever. And they're taught, like, say, hey, you have an idea for like an app. Just write it and do it and fail and see what happens. Because apps, like the people, if you write an app and put it on the App Store for Apple, God, they gave out $500 million just in 1 week. The first week, actually, in 2015, they did $500 million of business in selling apps. And if you have an app on that store, you almost make almost all the money. You don't have to go to a publisher. You don't have to do anything. You just figure out, write the code, or hire somebody to write the code, and hey, let's do an app that does this. Sort of like writing a book, same thing. Nobody does books anymore. They do an app or a movie. Yeah. And he's teaching his kids to do this. Thank God. And see, it's so easy now. See, back then, you couldn't start a business like you could today. So they were teaching you how to run big corporations and all that kind of stuff. Because they're where the businesses were, where the jobs were, whatever. Now business schools are teaching, hey, you don't need anything. You don't need money. You don't need money. You just go out and fail, figure it out, blah, 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 try it out. That's what they're teaching. These kids are starting businesses before they even graduate. And they have no fear, or they don't know any better, is really what it is. Because someone is, as we get older, we have these perceptions of how we think things should work, or how we've seen it work in the past. It doesn't work that way anymore. Forget it. The hardest thing to do is forget what you think is right. until you go out and try it, fail. And just go out and try it and fail so you get to what does work for you. And nobody could tell you that because you have to learn. It worked for you differently than anybody else. So watch this interview. You're going to learn so much about what life is now and making money in our country and how easy it is. Well, Bernard Schroeder, and fail fast or win big. And actually, man, you're just such a delight to talk to because you're the first expert in business consultant that seems to say, just get out there and fail, man. That's the only thing you have to worry about is just getting out there and fail because that's the way you're going to learn, huh?
Well, I think, I think the more you touch customers and the more you move out there, the more you learn. When you're not doing something, you're not learning. And, speaking from experience, having built a company, having helped a lot of other companies, I mean, I was there in the early days of Amazon, the early days of Yahoo. You think they had it together? You think they had it right? They just ran like hell. And after seeing this for a number of years and watching entrepreneurs behave that way, that's the message I'm pushing to, anybody that'll listen.
So in other words, you're saying nobody really knows what the hell they're doing anyway. So your guess is as good as anybody else out there. And go out and do it without a lot of downside. Because it seems like now with crowdfunding and things, there's not a whole lot of downside of trying anything nowadays.
Well, exactly, Matthew. If you look at, the e-commerce tools that are available for $30 a month, if you look at, food carts you can rent, if you look at, you show me, a business model unless somebody's making something insane, and I'll show you how to get that product close to the market for very little money and probably very little time.
So anybody with a couple $100 could be an entrepreneur and test their idea, get customers, get money, instead of spending a whole lot of time developing this business plan that will be in the Smithsonian someday or whatever the hell it's going to happen, right?
I have some students that throw up websites on the weekends. They don't even have the product. They see if they can get orders. If they get orders, then they scramble to find the product.
Yeah.
They're just testing. They're constantly testing. And if they get onto something, then they'll turn it into a business.
Right. No, and that's to me the key of what our society is now with the internet. You can't do that. I mean, if you want to sell something, you don't have to go down and rent a retail store in downtown Detroit or whatever for any of that. You can just go on the, for $100 on the web and start seeing if you could sell it and then figure it out from there.
Or if you might have the world's next best food bar, go sell it at a farmer's market.
Yeah.
Go sell it somewhere where you can, $25 a table. You're talking to customers. They're giving you feedback on your product. That might lead to something else.
So your students now at San Diego there are really all into this. You have oh boy, that's
sorry.
Is that your investment advisor?
Yeah. That's definitely my phone ringing, and I don't want it to.
That's okay. But you run an entrepreneurship center down at the University of San Diego there, right?
That's correct. I'm the director of the Lavin Entrepreneurship Center.
And so now young people you see all the time, I mean, this is what I think that particularly older people don't realize how easy it is to do. Young people know the internet a little bit better than an old fart would, right? And
yeah, you'd be surprised how many people I meet in the community that are in that 40 to 60 range. They're a little bit disappointed, with where they've gone in their career. And they're leaning in and learning some of these new tools and testing because the one thing they have, they have some knowledge and experience. And when they see some of these new tools and they realize how quickly they can move, it's kind of fascinating to watch them as well.
And it doesn't take you don't need a PhD in engineering to learn how to do any of this stuff. They're making it real easy with platforms and things like that to figure out all this stuff out.
No, you just need to figure out what crowd to run in. The campus is crazy because there's kids that are coding and cooking and making stuff all over the campus. They're just looking for experience. They don't want equity. Sometimes they don't even want money. They just want the ability to build stuff. And even in the community, if you fall into some of these new incubators or these new co-location facilities, the rent's free. There's other people that you're meeting. You just got to put yourself out there.
No, and I believe it. And to me, what's great about this, now, again, at any age, I mean, we all seem to have jobs, that work of big bureaucracies that nobody cares about you, and you're working your heart out. You're lucky if once a year the boss gives a nice job or something. And boy, you put something on the internet, it costs you $50 to do it, and you got 300 people saying you're great. I mean, nothing could be better than that.
It's interesting. I gave a talk the other day on the campus, and it was to some MBA students. And, they're just the typical MBA students looking at me like, what's this guy got for me?
Yeah.
And I said, look, here's the deal. How long do you think you're going to live? And they're looking at me and they're like, well, I think we're going to live into our 80s. I go, with parts, you're probably going to live into your hundreds. Yeah. I go, so here's the deal. You got a 60-year, 50-year runway ahead of you. What are you going to do that's fun and fascinating? Because you'll always have your day job. I don't care. You weren't born to be a lawyer. You weren't born to be an accountant. So let's say you can do that. Okay, great. And let's say you can do an environment you like. Okay, great. But if it's an environment you don't like and you want to create your own firm, if you fail, you can go back to being the accountant or the lawyer for somebody else. So what's your downside? There is no downside. It's just
you can always get another job you hate, right?
Exactly. It doesn't have to be a job you hate. It's maybe a job you don't love.
Exactly. Well, to me, if it's not what you love, then you have to be thinking about something else.
Well, you're settling, and I don't know why people settle. It's a fascinating thing. Most people in the world seem to settle.
Yeah. And I guess it's because we get trapped up in stuff we got, and we worry we can't get rid of it. So that's why, to me, the key in starting out anything, man, just keep that overhead low, and then you're more flexible than ever, and it doesn't take much to learn.
We'll all read these articles in the Wall Street Journal and wherever about the millennial generation, right? And they're not good communicators. They're ADD. They're this. They're that. They're self-absorbed. Here's what I love about them and why they might be, the #1 generation of entrepreneurs in this country. 1, they are ADD. I like that. 2, they don't see themselves working for anybody for more than 3 years. 3, they don't need a car. They'll use Uber.
Absolutely.
4, they don't want a house. They'll use Airbnb. They want to live now. And I love that because that intensity of not wanting to surround themselves with the accoutrement of the 80s, let's say, lends itself to a little bit of freedom, a little bit of flexibility, a little bit of opportunity for risk. I actually believe they will be the most entrepreneurial generation.
I believe the tools are out there for them to do it, and there's ways of making extra money to survive while you're doing these things like it never has before.
I agree. There's never been a
now
time
you could
like
drive
this.
a cab for Uber and make 90 grand instead of a cab company making 30 or something like that. So
or create the next Uber, whatever the next Uber is. It's kind of fascinating. I mean, it's leverage, right? I remember when I first saw Zipcar and Car2Go, the car rental services come into market. You just knew that there were 3 guys and a dog, sitting somewhere going, how do we do a transportation business with no cars? And one of them goes, we leverage all the cars that are out there.
Exactly.
And Uber's born, right? And Uber essentially is a mobile application. At the end of the day, boil it all down. It's just
It's what, a couple hundred people, and they have a value of what, $10 billion now.
It's crazy.
That's crazy. The same as Avis and Hertz together.
Without buying a car.
No cars, no people, no nothing, just a platform. And the rest of us get a deal in life.
That's the leverage today.
I know.
That is the leverage.
It's so exciting. That's why people say, oh, everything's new, man, nothing works anymore. Yeah, thank God. All that stuff that worked isn't worth working anymore.
Well,
and there's new ways.
Disruptive. Whether we want it to be disruptive or not, it's all being disrupted. And so that's the real opportunity. I don't care if someone does not have an idea. All they have to do is look at a marketplace they care about or a population segment they care about and just look for the disruption. Because it's happening everywhere.
Everywhere.
Absolutely. No one's, look at what's going on with watching things online.
Right.
It's completely disruptive.
What happened to those 3 networks?
I tell you, I met with somebody the other day, and they were talking about a strategy for local TV. And I was like, I honestly don't know what the strategy is for local TV.
Who knows? I don't know anybody, but certainly makes it more cost efficient to do something like that than ever before.
Yes. The amount of money that you'd have to risk to get feedback from the market is potentially so small.
Exactly. So anything. So who knows? We're all guessing. We're all scared as hell and have no idea what we're doing. So just get out there and do something and fail fast or win big, right? And to find you, Bernie, we go to BernieSchroeder.com.
That's correct.
BernieSchroeder.com.
That's it.
Nice to chat with you. And, believe in everything you're
Matthew.
saying. Nice you're there and guiding people on a better path than all these fat cats are trying to get us to do.
I appreciate what you're doing as well. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Okay, now here's an interview, man, that's got to convince you that America still is the place anybody with any kind of background can do anything they want, and they can do it without any money. This guy was an art history major, and he's working in some museum or whatever. Man, he just wanted to cook, but he didn't have any money. He didn't even know how to cook. And so, within no time at all, like a year or so, he had the top 10 restaurant in Houston, but he had no walls, no experience, know nothing about any other traditional restaurant, and did it without money too. God, see, that could still happen. And it is happening. And I believe it's happening more now than ever before. People who don't go to experts to get help because they'll just tell you how to spend money, and they'll charge you a bunch of money for something that tell you about worked yesterday, but it ain't going to work tomorrow, ain't going to work today because it's a whole new world out there. And your instincts and guts are a hell of a lot smarter nowadays than the best professionals because they don't know what the hell's going on. You can't. You can't. But they know how to sell you. They know how to pretend to make them look so important and be the smartest people in the world so they could charge their ass off and get a hell of a lot of money from you, right? They perfect that. That's their job, is to learn what to say, when to say, how to say it, so you give them money. Right. And whether after you give them money, whether the stuff works they gave you or not, doesn't matter, because you're just a dummy. After they get finished telling you how dumb you are, look at how I could tell you how to do it and make money. You've been running around in circles because you're dumb. And I am so smart. And I'll show you how smart I am. And you just give me a lot of money, and maybe it'll work for you. And 9 out of 10 times it won't. So why the hell are we giving people like that money? But we don't know our options. Well, you have options nowadays because their stuff ain't going to work, so you might as well your stuff. Watch this guy, an art history major, wants to cook, start something with no walls, no money, no experience, and within no time, he's the top 10 restaurants in Houston. Wow! Wow! Watch this. America's great. We can all do it too. Sean Carroll of HoustonCrepes.com. And I can't believe it that you were like an art history major, and all of a sudden you want to make crepes, and you don't even open a restaurant, you just open a stand on the street, and you become the top 10 restaurants in Houston. Man, is every restaurateur just pissed at you for going to these fancy cooking schools and all this kind of stuff, and now have to compete with you selling stuff off the street that's better than they could do?
I love it. There's top 10 restaurants in the city, 9 fancy restaurants, and 1 guy with no walls.
And that's just wonderful. I mean, that's why, to me, it really epitomizes what this country is really still all about. I mean, it's not about credentials. It's not about, getting the degrees and having the right, whatever the holy water blessed in you. It's about doing something and teaching yourself how to do it, isn't it?
I learned how to make crepes watching videos on YouTube. I should enjoy eating them in Paris, but I didn't learn how to make them over there.
Yeah, so in other words, you just taught yourself. It took a couple months, 6 months to get this idea together, and you just like got a hot dog stand, but it's a crepe stand in the middle of Houston, right?
Not the place where you would expect it, but best crepes west of the ponds.
Yeah, that's amazing. And to be in the top 10 restaurant, and actually you were like number 2 or number 3 on the list, right?
That's giving me a little bit too much credit. No, number
Really?
10, but that's good enough.
Hey, man, I remember when I first made the New York Times bestseller list, I was 15, you know. Out of 15, you know, that's what I made that sucker, man. I flunked English in college, but I made that list. You know?
Yeah.
So, but I mean, that's amazing. I mean, all these high-powered French restaurants must be really ticked at you, huh?
I can't help them. It's more about service than it is about anything else.
Really? So
the Eatsy boys down here has convinced me of that, and I didn't want to agree with them. I said, no, it's all about the food. But no, 51% is service, 49% is the food. It changes how food tastes.
now, when you said the Eatsy Boys, is that a local something or other?
Yeah, they started off as a food truck. They came and saw me. They started right after I did with kind of the food truck movement in the first wave. Now they've moved into a restaurant. They've also started Eighth Wonder Brewery. So they're getting out there on their empire.
I see. That's wonderful. But so now, though, you want to be working more than 3 days a week or 5 days or whatever the heck it is, and get your own walls and have a place that people sit down and really grow out of there, so you have more little trucks maybe all over the city or stands, and you're raising money on Kickstarter, and man, you're almost halfway there already, you know, and it's fantastic. And if you go to your website, HoustonCrepes.com, and then what kind of favors do you have for people who are supporting you?
We have all sorts of great crepe packs for people who live in Houston. We also have kind of artist things. You know, we have a great T-shirt designed by a cartoonist, Jason Poland. We have a little comic book that I'm going to make as well. If anybody wants a calendar to see kind of what's in season in Houston and how it's different from the Northeast and the West Coast, we have those on there, as well as great packages for catering and. Well, if you go all the way to the top, I do offer to have a Dallas Cowboys tattoo on my, even though that's just mainly there to show dedication.
Wow, I mean, you're going to get a Dallas Cowboys tattoo, and you're a big Buffalo Bills fan, and you're going to do that? Are you going to tell your hometown folks about this or not?
I hope they don't catch wind, but we'll see.
Well, I just got my first tattoo last year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. My son and I got it for my 70th birthday. He got me that thing. And I always wanted, and see, I figure at 70, I used to worry about tattoos growing up. God, what are they going to look like in 30 years? You know, I don't give a shit now, you know, my age. So now is the time to get them. So you can always use another tattoo. That's good. So you're going to get Dallas Cowboys tattoo. Well, that's going to be a hometown guy now. You're going to have to, they're probably going to change your key to the city in Buffalo, but.
Oh.
Well, do you think crepes would work in Buffalo?
I think crepes would be a tougher sell in Buffalo. It's definitely a working class city, and I really respect everything that's going on there. But the internationalism of Houston is really a boon to me. The neighborhood Montrose has a lot of French, Italian, Dutch, and English and Scottish who live there, as well as kind of the Venezuelan, Colombian, and Argentinian people who know what a crepe is. If I leave the loop, I got to tell people I'm making pancake tacos. They still taste good.
But also, I mean, if you're in Buffalo, you're only open three months a year too.
Yeah, I'd be out there in the snow, just like the tamale guys in Chicago, just like the crepe stands in Paris. You gotta keep hustling.
Yeah, keep to. Well, we have a crepe here in Bethesda, and they're terrific, and that's why. But yours, I mean, nobody I know of ever made a top 10 restaurant, and I follow the restaurant critics a lot. So, I mean, that is just the most special thing I think has ever happened to almost like a hot dog stand, but a crepe stand to be a top 10 restaurant. I mean, that must feel great, you know.
It really does. And Allison Cook, the first time she came, she sat next to the stand and said, "Oh, no, you go. And she just watched people talking and hanging out for an hour before she even ordered anything. And she bears a passing resemblance to one of the neighbors around there. So I thought maybe I'm maybe it's this lady's sister, and I was really nice to her. But I had no idea that she was sneaking pictures with her phone the whole time.
Oh,
She
and
took
that's
her
the restaurant
photo.
critic for Houston? Is that the Houston
Allison
restaurant?
Cook, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I see. I used to know the restaurant critic here for the Washington Post, and we used to go out and eat, and nobody knew who she was, and things like that. And yeah, they're very popular, popular people and powerful people. I mean, they can make or break anybody. See.
It's all about the regulars. So whether
Yeah.
it's the critics or not, it's who keeps coming back,
Coming
you
back.
know. And so that's my favorite part. And when we were filming the Kickstarter video, the guy did an entire interview to like 20 minutes or so, and then goes and looks at the camera and says, we didn't film any of that.
That was your best stuff. That's what I hate. The first time is usually my best. I hate rehearsing and everything because I'm not that good of an actor to rehearse. Okay. So you're saying people come from how far to visit your stand?
The farthest one of our regulars ever came was coming from Austin, and he'd come
Austin,
every weekend,
Texas, man.
come
That's
every
across.
weekend to woo a girl who lived around the corner. But we get regulars who come from Missouri City, from Katy, from the Memorial area, from Pearland, and they all drive 15, 20 minutes to
Wow.
come see us at the straight stand and hang out and wait for a crepe, which is an awesome amount of dedication that I really appreciate.
God, not only that, I mean, like from Austin, they're spending $50 on gas to get a $5 crepe, it's just incredible. But it really shows, I think, how, we don't need these big mass market stuff anymore. It's just not worth it, and there's no soul to it, and nobody cares what you go into a store that with mass market, and nobody cares even what they're doing,
You got to believe in what you're doing.
Yeah.
And in a way, it's bringing a 19th century job into the 21st century.
Right.
You can use the social media. You can really start off on your own from very little, and as long as you really believe in your products, you can get somewhere.
But you're providing, you're really giving you, and that's what people are coming from you because it's special, nowhere else. And as you're saying, 50% of your success is in dealing with the people, not making the food, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why they're there, is for you, and so you could build everything, and nobody can steal that. So if somebody starts up another crepe, it's never going to be Sean's crepe. It's going to be somebody else trying to copy it, and they won't do it right. And so we're like question mark suit. You could anybody else could wear a question mark suit. I don't care.
That's why I gotta find someone who can have the same energy, can do the front of the house and the back of the house at the same time in order to keep a restaurant running at all hours of the day. But hey, if I can stand over your shoulder and yell at you long enough, I can teach you how to do it.
To do it. So that's what you're doing now. It's fundraising to be able to do that. And you're on Kickstarter. You're looking for 50 grand. You're almost halfway there. So you're going to make this happen. And you got goodies to give, people to help you with this investment. And what are some of the goodies that you're giving out?
We have great crate packs for people who live in Houston to come by either at the street stand or in the restaurant for 2 or 5 or 10 of them. We have a great T-shirt designed by a cartoonist, Jason Poland, as well as a cartoon comic book that I'm drawing myself, and a calendar designed by my brother that's going to be all the different things to get in Houston, the produce that's available at different times of year, and how different it is from the Northeast, from the West Coast, just kind of really close, to learn how to eat in Houston in the right season.
Well, you're probably putting the art degrees to work, aren't you?
Right.
Yeah. Showing your parents, it's not going to waste. Yeah. But it's wonderful. I mean, I even saw the video. I thought what you did was a wonderful video. I mean, it was very special. And again, you're showing your heart in there. And, if you went out and did something, big Hollywood, production company, you would lose you, and then you're not getting you, and you're the best part of what you got.
My friend Lee helped me film that, and he worked in LA on reality shows for a while.
Wow.
He knew exactly what questions to ask and how to push me a little bit to get it to come out just right.
I see. And he was like me, that he forgot to turn on the recording position for a while. People don't know. We had to stop and start because I forgot to turn something on. But it's great. I mean, HoustonCrepes.com. Sean, I think this is a wonderful idea. I mean, taking your passion, you have a young daughter now too, and you and your wife are devoting yourself to living a life that's special and contributing to your society where you live, and that's what seems what you want to do, is include more of your neighborhood and society in your success, and that means the success of your community. And you're sharing your heart and your talent and your soul and your food too, which probably people want the most of.
Our street stand is closing at the end of March, and so we've got to do something, but we want to move as little as possible. We know where people know where to find us.
I understand. Well, wonderful. So the HoustonCrepes.com. You go there, help you soon, help you now, help you forever, and get a crepe, whether you're in Houston or whenever you get there. You get. It's a 10 best restaurant in Houston. A little crepe stand. Wow, that's terrific.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Well, there was one guy at the Department of Agriculture at the U.S. government who helped me sell 1 million books, and his name was Charlie Porter. This is a guy, when I was first starting in Washington, D.C., and I was running around helping fat cats. My clients were Fortune 500 clients, and trying to get Fortune 500 clients. I had a 1-bedroom apartment here in Washington, D.C., and trying to be a consultant. And clients, I was saying, hey, you know, information is so big, and I just got my MBA and all this kind of stuff, and I was trying to get them information to run their businesses. So these investors and fat cats, I was trying to get them to call me up so I could get them information. And I didn't know anything, really. I just was convinced that information is so important for anybody to make decisions. I mean, you need to know your alternatives in life in order to make a good decision, and that's what I wanted to do. Because I saw corporate America relying on, you know, particularly in computers, some programmer making $10,000 a year to make a corporate decision. That's silly. So my mission at Getting MBA is to get information at top management to make decisions. And one of the first people I had was actually an investor in the commodities business. So he was on the investing money in the New York commodities market. He was investing in something called Maine potatoes. That's right, Maine potato. And I didn't know anything about Maine potatoes. You know, I didn't know anything about potatoes. I thought they were potato trees. I didn't even know they grew out of the ground. You know, that's how much I was a city boy. You know. And so at the time, you know, if I got you the information, you'd pay me. If not, nothing lost. I had nothing better to do anyway. And he had millions of dollars tied up in this Maine potato thing, you know. And he needed some information about it. He wanted to know about the basic supply and demand or something so he could outguess the other idiots in the market who are gamblers, and they're just trying to outguess the other stupid people that are gambling their money in these things, you know. And so he said, hey, I'm smart than that. I'll find out what the real economics about Maine potatoes is. I didn't know. But at the time, I used to run the whole business just on a phone. It wasn't a smartphone. It was just a rotary dial phone or push button, whatever the heck they had at the time back in the 70s. And I'd call around the government looking for a potato expert. And it'd take me about 3 or 4 phone calls, and I'd find an expert. And that was the guy's name. Charlie Porter is the government's potato expert. Yeah, at the time. He's since passed away. I went down, I made an appointment to see Charlie because I needed some information for my client. I was charging my client as much as I could get, you know. So he said, sure, come on down. I went down to see Charlie. And I sat in Charlie's office because he had nothing else to do. I sat down there for about 2 hours, and he brought me up from ground zero on the supply and demand of Maine potatoes. Anything that we wanted to know, he knew something about. He would bring out reports showing me the price of potatoes, and he'd bring out these charts. He had potato models. When he said potato models, I was thinking of Mr. Potato Head. No, he had computerized models, and this is back in the 70s. And he put them on the window, and he put these 2 graphs, one graph and another. And when these 2 lines cross, what's going to happen to the price of potatoes and everything? There wasn't a question that came up that Charlie didn't have. the answer for. And then we started talking about potato statistics. And he went across the hall and got the potato statistician. There was another expert across the hall who just counted potatoes. And I expected to go across all the sides and see some guy going, 1 potato, 2 potatoes, 3 potatoes. Nah, yeah, it's a bad joke. And I used that 30 years ago. But I mean, that was it. Now, imagine, Charlie Porter, I used to tell that story all over the media all the time. And he got on talk shows with me, and I can, communicate with him and his wife for many, many years. But this next guy is a Charlie Porter. Now, instead of staying there, he left because he saw a wild fruit. A fruit that grows in the wild. It's tasty. Nobody knows about it. I never heard about it before I met this guy. And he's raising money on the internet so he could do a patent on this fruit that grows wild because he's going to make it better. This is what our bureaucrats are doing now, becoming entrepreneurs. And he's raising over $20,000 on the internet so he can patent this wild fruit and package it and all this kind of stuff and be the, what's called the pawpaw king. It's cool. It's a wild fruit that everybody forgot about. It's been here for a long time. And that's what he's doing. So watch this. See all the opportunities that are just laying in front of us when you're a government employee or not. But also think about the expertise that we have in these offices, just like Charlie Porter. This guy's an expert in free fruit that's available to make money at. Neil Peterson with PetersonPompoms.com. Pardon
right.
me? And God, I mean, I never knew that we had this delicious wild fruit hanging around the United States that nobody knows about except you, it seems, called pom-poms. And you're going to make, revolutionize the fruit industry by introducing the world to this thing.
Well, I love the idea of introducing the world to it, but I'll be truthful as a scientist. It's not going to revolutionize.
Well, who else is going to invent a new fruit?
We're not going to solve famine in Africa.
I see. Well,
it is a wonderful fruit, though, and it has deserved to be part of agriculture for centuries, right?
Yeah, but
and
I mean,
the reason it's not known in this country very well is because we're urban.
We're what?
We went back because we are now urban.
Oh, right.
As a society. And if we went back to 1850, people in the East, where it's native, they would know it. You would almost everyone would know of it.
Yeah. Well, I'm a city boy. I never heard of this stuff or whatever. And it seems, I mean, I never see it in the the supermarkets or anything. But I mean, to me, what's so important too, you have a delicious fruit to encourage people to eat better, which it seems very important in our country, maybe not Africa, but here, to have a new product that is tasty and delicious to get away from that other crap that we've been eating and stuffing our yaps with. That seems important.
Right. Processed food that we eat.
Yeah, right.
Back to the fruits and vegetables. Yeah.
So now you
are...
Yeah. And that's why nutritional and tasty, and getting kids weaned over, and the rest of us too, adults too, off of this other stuff. I mean, that's what I see. A great contribution you're making out of this. I mean, who else is bringing a new fruit to the market? Besides that's not processed.
It happens, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember when kiwis came to the supermarket?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Not that it's frequent, but
right.
And they're not native here. Here's a wonderful episode, which is the blueberry. The blueberry did not become well known until after 1920.
Wow! So you're the new blueberry. It's a real American thing, and the blueberry was the last real American thing we brought to the world.
That's it. Yeah.
So now it's Peterson.
We're going to need orchards right now. Up till now, it's mostly backyard growers who buy the trees. And so the fruit is for themselves. And there are a few small orchards. And you can get them. Now, you're, I believe, in Washington, D.C.
Yes.
Yes, well, in September, if you were to go to the DuPont Circle Fresh Farm Market,
Oh, I run by there every week.
okay, yes, that's on Sunday morning. Well, they usually have, during September, they have pawpaw.
Wonderful.
Are
I'm
you
gonna be
not?
there. Wow. No, I know because I'm at a place in Adams Morgan we hang out on the weekend, and when I jog, I go through that market there, and it's a wonderful place. Well, that's wonderful. But now you're turning into this big agribusiness in a way by
That's the future. That once we take baby steps, we
right.
don't we don't get to the top of the mountain without climbing up the bottom slope, and that's where we are right now.
But now you're on Kickstarter with your petersonspompaws.com. That also take you to Kickstarter to find out about contributing to get this thing off the ground or out of the dirt or whatever it is.
Because what the Kickstarter is to get them to Europe and Japan. They don't have, other than they're not native there, so people don't know what it is and don't know how to pronounce it. And I don't care how they pronounce it, actually, as long as they eat it.
That's right.
They can call it Asamina instead of pawpaw. I don't care, as long as they can get the best varieties, which will encourage everyone to eat them. If you taste an inferior one, you may never want to taste another one again.
I see.
That's why I want to get the best ones out there.
One bad date with a dumb blonde, and you're never going back, huh? Right.
I guess so.
But it seems that the $20,000 is really just for the legal stuff, so you can market these around the world, and people get an authentic pow pow, and not some cheap, tasteless imitation. Huh?
Yeah, I mean, they can in the wild.
Yeah.
They can be bitter, and the texture can be gritty. I mean, it isn't always a wonderful eating experience. Now, I say that to balance it against the best, which is in the wild. It can be wonderful. Mm-hmm. But my varieties are much larger. They can be as big as a mango or bigger, up to a pound.
Wow.
And they have many fewer seeds. A wonderful, luscious texture that melts in your mouth, and very sweet, and the flavor is somewhat like banana with mango, with pear, a little tropical tasting. And how do you describe a flavor? It's really hard. How would you describe strawberry?
Yeah. Well, wine connoisseurs describe it in stuff that never means anything to me. They seem to have a lot of language for it. So maybe you'll get like that someday, with all these euphemisms for flavors. But it's still remarkable to me that we have this wonderful fruit that grows wild and nobody knows about it. And I think it's just wonderful that you're taking the time with your life. I mean, you didn't do this in the last couple of months. I mean, you've been at this for a long time, haven't you?
About 38 years.
Give or take a few months, right?
Yeah.
Well, but you're an agricultural economist, it sounds like. That's what you grew up with, yeah?
It's true. I was an agricultural economist with USDA for 18 years.
Wow.
My focus was on small farm research.
And this really didn't come out of that. This was really a side project you were doing.
This was definitely a side project. I wasn't paid by the government.
Right. So this is like a busman's holiday. You were doing the same kind of work, but not getting paid for it because you enjoy it so much.
Agriculture.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And so if this happens then, which it happened because you made your quota, but people have a couple more days yet to get on and help you. And what kind of gifts are you handing out to people to help you?
Oh, well, yes, there are different levels of pledging, and each level of pledging comes with different rewards. Okay, so you can get bumper stickers and seeds. Those are the low-level rewards, right? Then there's a mug. There's a wonderful T-shirt that says, "I'm pro-pawpaw and I vote."
Wonderful. See?
And a cap. We have a wonderful cap with our logo and name on it. Then if you're at there's a book coming out. Ooh. Not by me. I'm not the author, but I will sign the book, and it's on the history of pawpaw from the past to the present.
Well, that's great. So
what else? There's fruit. At the higher levels, you get a 10-pound box of fruit, premium fruit, my variety.
Wow.
You get trees. You get two trees of my
I mean, I
variety.
could grow them in my backyard, huh?
Yes, you most certainly can. They grow all the way up to New York State, down to
Wow.
New Orleans, out to Kansas, and up into West
Wow.
Michigan. I mean, they grow all over the East.
So I can help you pay your legal bills and eat pom-poms for the rest of my life in my backyard.
Your backyard. And two trees will give you as much as you can eat, personally.
Wow, no kidding. 2 trees would give a family all they need for the rest of their life, huh?
Yeah. The thing is, to explain, since most people have never seen a pawpaw,
Right.
they're very perishable. They're
Uh,
just there in season. Apples you can store for a long
I
time,
see.
but pawpaws you cannot
Can't
store,
sort.
except for about 3 weeks in the refrigerator. But
Well,
that's okay.
that
Nice to have, I think, seasonal fruit.
absolutely, especially fresh and tasty. I watched your video. The people are tasting this that never tasted before. I mean, it looks like they're tasting custard or tapioca pudding or something. That kind of texture and the excitement in their face when they do this. I mean, just to
Yes.
watch those videos are wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Neil. Glad
You're
you're there and doing this and to help you out and to find out about these and be the first in your neighborhood with a pow tree in your backyard. You go to Peterson
Buying trees
Pow,
from me.
Peterson Pow Pows. Boy, I can't say that. .com.
Oh, it's just really it's like
Paws, right, like a dog paw. Peterson, PAWPAWS.com.
Yeah. Thank you.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you, Neil. See you around the Beltway.
Okay.
Take care. Did you know you could get $120,000 for an idea that will help stupid dads? Actually, it's dads who don't know much around the baby room and actually making formula for kids. Now here's a guy you got to interview. He's part of some other people who put together a little appliance that makes baby formula just by pushing a button, man, and actually your iPhone helps, or your Android, or any kind of smartphone you have helps it, and you got baby formula in no time at all, mixed to perfection, better than mom could provide, just with the press of a button. But what's interesting to me about all this, I mean, gosh, years ago in our country, if you wanted a kitchen appliance or make one or whatever, man, you had to go to like 2 or 3 different, kitchen appliance manufacturers, and talk to these people and try to get them interested in your idea. That's how things worked. You had to go to the big gatekeepers who had the market sewed up. They had the money and everything, and try to convince them. And you were competing against their in-house techies who went to lunch every day with the people make the decisions. And you're coming from out of the company, trying to convince them of an idea. And that's why it never happened. And people rarely got good ideas, to market. Now you don't need these fat cats. You don't even need a distribution channel. You go in one place on the internet, just talk about your idea, show a sample of it, and customers are there, and if they like it, they give you money and say, hey, go make that sucker. That's terrific. This is how they got $120,000 to make their little milk nanny machine. Who would have thought you could make a milk nanny machine? Can. So, I mean, there's ideas you and I would never think of. And that's why, the questions are so important. But what's more important about today's world are the tools that are available to you that to do anything without money, without expertise, without knowing anybody, whatever. I mean, now you'll Google and look for an expert to help you with something, and they're going to charge you thousands, maybe tens of thousands of dollars to pretend to help you, and they still don't know for sure. They're guessing. We're all guessing. Whether you're an expert or not, what you're really doing is guessing. And if you're doing something new, why rely on somebody who learn something old. If it worked yesterday, that's probably less less security that it's going to work today or tomorrow. That's why your gut, your heart, is a lot of times smarter than your head. You know, we got to use it. So watch how they did this. $120,000 because they're helping stupid dads. Well, James Filbert of WheatCos.com. You know, and you got the Milk Nanny. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, my wife and I wrote a book on kids when we had our first child 30-some years ago, you know, and we needed this product then, man. I mean, because you got like well, it's a kitchen appliance that really makes formula milk anytime, very easily. And God, I mean, it's a price that's a killer price. And you're raising money on Kickstarter, and you already got your money. So what the hell are you talking to me for? You made all your money. Why are you just greedy? Is that it, James? But it's a great product.
We're very excited. We've got good response, you know, from folks who think the same way you do. You know, what's great about the Milk Nanny is that it doesn't just make formula, baby formula milk. It actually can make protein drinks.
Oh!
Yeah, you can put protein in there, and it can make with hot water or room temperature water, and it can also do chocolate milk.
Wow!
Yeah.
No kidding. So
yeah, so the one appliance
everything but espresso, huh? Right.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, what's great about the Milk Nanny is that after you've added water and powder in the powder bowl. The rest the machine does. You know, it operates in the cloud, and with your mobile device or with the one-touch start button, the machine knows exactly how to mix whatever it's making, whether it's chocolate milk or a protein drink.
And you could operate this from your iPhone?
Correct, or your Android phone.
Or Android, so it knows. I mean, what kind of chocolate milk you're going to make, what kind of baby formula you're making, or anything. You just scan the label, and you got it.
That's correct. You scan the barcode, and then we have all these. We have about 95% of the baby formulas.
Wow.
In a database. And so when it scans the barcode, it goes to the cloud, and then it tells, instantly it tells the machine, you're using Similac, stage 1.
Ah.
And then what it does, the machine, then the real intelligence of the machine goes to work. So it boils the water. First, the water has to boil to 100 Celsius to kill all the germs in the water. And then it cools down. And but the cooling process is determined by what powder you're using.
Oh.
Because every powder has a different consistency. So, because we solved the problem that no other formula milk maker has solved, and that is we make milk with no clumps in it. Because the clump causes babies, it causes sickness in the babies. So, two things happen. The water temperature gets hot, it cools down to a temperature that knows exactly at which point to release the powder. It mixes and blends like a blender.
I see. And
then before the powder is actually mixed with the water, the powder is ground by like a corkscrew.
Oh.
So it makes the powder even finer than it is when it comes out of the container.
Wow.
And then it mixes with the water. And then in 15 seconds after you press the start button, either on your mobile app or on the machine itself, in 15 seconds you've got nice, fresh, warm milk with no clumps.
I mean, this sounds great for stupid dad. When mom's out working all day.
Well, that's actually why this device was invented. Derek, my partner, he's got a 3-year-old son, and his wife works, and so she breastfed for the first 3 months, and then she had to go back to work. And shortly thereafter, of course, babies cry a minimum 2 to 3 times a night. And in order for her to get her sleep, he was the one that had to get up at night and make milk.
Oh.
And that got old real fast, especially on the cold nights. And you know, he works long hours too. So one night he woke up and he goes, "This has got to end." And you know, his company, he has another company that builds mobile apps for smart machines.
Oh, I see.
4 years they've been developing apps for very high-tech companies here in Shenzhen. And he just put two and two together. I make mobile apps. I'm going to make one that operates a machine that mixes powder and water together.
Wow, that's terrific. No, I would think, too, particularly if mom's away all day or whatever, you know, and dad's left with the kid and doesn't know what to do and shoving things in the mouth. And now they just have, and it takes the worry from mom, worrying about dad being a klutz in the kitchen or whatever.
Right.
And you solve that whole problem.
Yeah, but it also has a B2B play, business to business. For example, all the nurseries that have kids, they have a lot of kids, and the hospitals. So all they're doing is watching kids. So they don't want to make milk, and so our machines make milk with a nice consistency, very easily, very safely. Machine has materials all BPU free, which means that there'll be no poisons or anything that would damage the quality of the milk as it's dispersed. The material that we use, the plastic material, is the same material that's used to make baby bottles.
Wow. So this is like the super espresso machine for people with babies in their
you could say that.
Right.
Sure.
You know, every office has to have one. Yeah.
And then here's another reason why not just dads are going to like it, but moms are going to like it. There's 3 ways the machine cleans itself, or well, actually there's 2 ways the machine cleans itself. Another way you can clean it. There's a DUV, deep ultraviolet, so that it cleans the dispenser where the milk actually comes out.
Right, I see.
And then all the internal parts where the powder and water come through, where they travel through out to the dispenser. Every time you make a bottle of milk, it goes through a cleaning process.
Wow.
And
so
then,
you don't have to put the whole thing in a washing machine or something. It's doing it itself every time you do it.
That's correct. And then if that's not good enough for you, you can actually take the machine apart very easily. We'll have a video that shows you how to do this. And you can clean the 4 main components.
I see.
Tanks, if you will. So you can always keep it very, very clean, and it cleans itself on a regular basis. It even tells you the machine is clean, ready to go, or it's clean right now, you can't use it.
Well, see, if my espresso machine did that, that would be great, you know. But you figured it out on baby formula machines. Now we got to get your work out of my espresso machine to clean that sucker itself. I hate cleaning that thing.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's a bit more complicated, but it'll, you know, if we can send a rocket to the moon, I'm sure we can make an espresso machine that cleans itself.
So it's WICOZ, WICOZ.com. You go there and you can find out about your Kickstarter campaign now. And like I said, you already got your $100,000, so this thing is going to be in production. And actually, you're delivering for Mother's Day. So this is a wonderful gift for the mother in your life, right? Or the new mother, the old mother, the anybody mother. Yeah.
But you want to know something interesting, Matthew, is most of our backers are fathers, are men.
Really? Terrific. Well,
they're either buying it for themselves or they're buying it for their wives. But
they're just like chocolate milk, I think, or protein drinks, right?
Well,
that's terrific. You know, men have become more hip to baby stuff. You know, I was so fortunate when I had kids. I mean, to experience that, you know, of growing a young person in your midst is just a wonderful experience, and anything you could get involved in doing more of that is terrific, and that's what your product does. I mean, I think it creates, you know, a connection with that little child that you have responsible for, and you know, nothing could be better than that. Instead of, you know, putting it in the hands of all the professionals or whatever, that you could do more of it yourself, which is a great way to live.
Yeah, you know, the machine. You know, the future in home appliances is moving towards smart appliances.
Yeah.
I think in 3 to 5 years, at least 50%, if not all the machines that we use in our home, are going to be smart in some capacity.
Absolutely. It's the internet of
we're just
everything.
leading the way. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're just leading the way. But
Yeah.
one of the things that the Milk Nanny does is that it gives moms and mothers and fathers more time. More time for
Absolutely.
themselves, more time for their kids, and time is money. Time is the one thing we can't
Right.
get more of.
Absolutely. You don't get that back, and the more time you're spending with your kids, the better your time is. So that's WICOZ.com. And the Kickstarter campaign is still on, so you want to get a hold of that because you get a deal now, almost half price, when this thing finally hits retail. And delivering for Mother's Day. I mean, what could be better than that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's still 9 days left.
Yeah,
There's 9 shopping days, right?
Right. Thank you, James. Great for you to be there
man.
and actually be there. You're in China doing this stuff. And I envy you there because I had a great time visiting China. I think one of the most exciting countries in the world right now, to be involved with. And I admire you for doing that and sharing your talent with the rest of us. Now you can talk to the world, but you're just doing it from China.
Yeah,
Right.
by the way of the internet.
Right.
All right,
Well,
Matthew,
take care,
great
James.
talking
Thank you
with
so
you.
much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.